You hear the sea long before you see it. It's not a dramatic sound, no crashing waves or theatrical thunder. Just a steady lapping rhythm, like a tired laundress wringing out clothes that have already been rinsed too many times. It's early morning in a 17th century Dutch port town. The sky is all soft gray gauze and salt haze. Gulls flap in lazy loops above the thatched rooftops, clearly uninterested in impressing anyone today. Somewhere nearby, a door creaks open, then shut again. You catch the scent of pickled herring and damp rope, which, believe it or not, is the official smell of nautical optimism. You walk slowly along the dock, wooden planks tapping gently under your feet. The boats here are modest merchant ships, narrow in the middle like they've been cinched with a belt. The crew is gathering, not in any great hurry, just yawning and mumbling about wind direction and breakfast. A man passes you, carrying a crate labeled Zirkul sauerkraut. Another follows with a stack of barrels that clink faintly. Pickles. No, always pickles. In fact, if this scene were a painting, it might be titled Still Life with Brine. Now, before we drift too far, if you like gentle journeys through odd corners of history, maybe give this channel a quiet little subscribe. It helps us float along. If you're awake enough to comment, tell us where you're listening from. Man, what time it is. We'll wait. Still awake. Lovely. But just so you know, you probably won't make it through this day. It's not you. It's the slow tide, the drizzle soft wind, the barrel of pickles with your name on it. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. ... You're a sailor. Well, not exactly a full-time sailor. More like someone who got mildly scammed into an exciting voyage by a cousin who promised riches, or at least a change of scenery. You agreed to a 3-week journey up the coast, maybe to Sweden or Denmark, depending on the winds. But you packed a coat, 3 stale biscuits, and the vague hope of meeting someone interesting at a far-off inn. What you didn't pack but will now become intimately familiar with is the Dutch obsession with preserving everything. Food, yes, but also memories, traditions, superstitions, even the last dream you had, if someone bothers to ask. Because out here on the sea, dreams matter. That's why as the boat gently lists away from port, you're handed a small glass jar. Inside, pickled cucumbers, floating serenely like sleepy little blimps in brine. You're told to eat one tonight. It's not for hunger, for sleep. It's a curious idea, isn't it? That fermented vegetables might guard your dreams like vinegar-soaked watchmen. But aboard Dutch ships of the 1600s, this was a quiet, unspoken rule. Eat your pickles, sleep easy. And in case you're wondering, yes, historians still debate whether this was truly widespread, or just one of those things that caught on in certain shipyards and never got written down. After all, the sea doesn't keep minutes. Your fellow crewmates don't talk about it much, but you'll notice that everyone has a jar tucked somewhere near their hammock. Some even keep a pickle slice in their hatband, for luck. One man swears it keeps away night terrors. Another mutters something about vinegar and moonlight canceling each other out. Scientifically, you decide not to press. You watch the town slip away. The rooftops shrink. The wind picks up. And somewhere, just as the last bit of land dips below the horizon, you feel the ship hum beneath you like a sleeping animal. Welcome aboard. Try not to knock over the barrel of pickled beets. Again, you sleep. Sort of. It's more like swaying with your eyes closed, while various parts of your body protest in sequence. Your spine is skeptical. Your stomach is unconvinced. Only your feet seem genuinely on board, and that's mostly because they've gone numb. Morning comes like a sigh through damp sails. You wake to the sound of someone sharpening a knife with the enthusiasm of a man who hasn't teased. Had a good dream in weeks. Around you, the crew is stretching, coughing, and quietly regretting life choices. Someone hands you a small crust of black bread. It tastes like ambition and sawdust. Another man offers a bite of pickled turnip, which you accept because, at sea, beggars can't be condiment choosers. And so begins the day. The sun is up, but barely bothering. It's more of a suggestion than a present, shy light that pools on the water like spilled milk. You hear the flap of sails adjusting. You're moving north. Maybe. The captain mutters about a fog bank near Friesland. Someone else thinks it's Tuesday. No one corrects him. After breakfast. There's a lecture. No. Not an official one, of course. but a kind of impromptu tale from an older sailor known only as Jan with a Hair. No one knows why he has that nickname. He has almost no hair. He tells you about a ship to slapered wind that sailed too long without Pickles. The men aboard began to suffer strange dreams. They saw fish whispering in Latin. They heard bells in the deep. One man claimed the moon told him to mutiny. They eventually abandoned ship in a panic, convinced the sea had swallowed their sense of time. So Jan says, "We eat our pickles." There is silence. Someone sneezes into their sleeve. A jar is opened with a quiet pop. The vinegar scent cuts the cold like gossip at a funeral. You spend the day tying knots, untying other knots, and trying to remember if you've always been this bad at knots. The rope is rough and frayed, like the conversation, which drifts from weather to wives to the quality of last night's dreams. One man says he dreamed of a table set with glass plates and metal forks hurly bizarre. Another dreamed of being on land, which everyone agrees is deeply suspicious. You quietly admit you dreamed of a very large cucumber doing a very small dance. No one blinks. Dreams at sea are not personal. They are weather reports of the soul. Lunch is more bread, some dried fish, a surprisingly spicy mustard. The cook, Willem, is a man of few words and many pickles. He swears by the brining method he learned from his grandmother in Harlem. She, apparently, believed that cucumbers were God's apology for mosquitoes. Mid-afternoon, the sea gets a bit lively. Not dramatic, just enough to make walking feel like an interpretive dance about poor choices. You focus on your feet in the distant horizon. Somewhere, a crate of sauerkraut shifts ominously. As the sun starts to pretend it will set, someone pulls out a lute, or what's left of one. The strings sound like a nervous cat, but no one complains. The tune is slow, a kind of lullaby for the sea. You take out your jar, one pickle plucked and gently chewed. It's cold, crisp, oddly comforting, like biting into a memory of safety. You think of home, of windows that don't move, of beds that don't swing. And as the stars blink open in the velvet sky, you curl into your hammock and wonder what strange logic led to this briny bedtime ritual. Maybe it doesn't matter, or maybe in a world ruled by wind and waves, one solid thing, one tangy, crunchy thing can anchor you to sleep. And tonight you dream nothing at all, which among sailors is the best dream of all. Morning again, you wake to the sound of boots overhead, soft thuds like someone politely rearranging furniture in the sky. The ship rocks gently, in that familiar cradle motion that no longer feels alarming, just slightly judgmental. There's a damp chill in the air, the kind that seeps into your clothes and makes your bones feel politely betrayed. You sit up in your hammock. Above you hangs a bundle of onions, swaying like a weird, slightly menacing chandelier. Storms passing. Someone mumbles as they hand you a mug of something warm. You don't ask what it is. On this ship, questions are just ways of inviting disappointment. Breakfast includes a sliver of smoked eel, 2 slices of dubious rye, and of course a pickle. This one is particularly wrinkled, as though it's been pondering existence too long. You eat it anyway. It's contemplative, possibly judging you. The captain calls for sail adjustments. You don't exactly understand what's happening, but you pretend to, which, historically speaking, is how most people get promoted. As the crew sets to work, your friend Peter, who insists he once dated a girl who was half mermaid, on her mother's side, leans in and whispers, "Do you know about the dream anchor?" You shake your head, wary. He grins. You tie a piece of string to your toe before bed, the other end to your pickle jar. That way, if your dreams drift too far, they get pulled back by vinegar. You stare at him. He nods solemnly. Works best with gherkins. Historians are understandably silent on this particular technique. Some say dream anchors were real among certain sailors. Okay. Others suggest Peter may have been hit in the head one too many times with a swinging pulley. Still, that night, you quietly try it. And yes, your dreams stay close. By midday, the clouds finally part, just a little. Enough to let through a watery sun, and the suggestion that maybe, just maybe, the sky isn't entirely out to get you. The sails stretch tighter. The ship breathes deeper. There's more conversation today. Perhaps it's the sun. Or perhaps it's the arrival of a new crate. Preserved lemon slices from a port in Morocco. Someone opens it reverently. The smell lifts the entire mood by 3 degrees. You learn something new. In the 1600s. Dutch ships often carried preserved citrus not just for vitamin C, but for morale. Lemons were the medieval equivalent of a motivational podcast. Also, some believed that citrus zest, placed under your pillow, could summon pleasant dreams, especially if you had recently offended the sea with bad behavior. Or worse, bad poetry. You're restarting to suspect that much of sailors' superstition boils down to two things. 1. Dante make the sea angry. And 2. brine is your best friend. After lunch, you're put on inventory duty. It's exactly as thrilling as it sounds. Barrels, ropes, lanterns, dried cod, more barrels. You stumble upon a jar labeled simply, Anksel. You ask someone what it means. They shrug. Maybe someone's aunt. You log it and move on. Evening settles in with a pink and lavender sky, which looks beautiful but does absolutely nothing for the chill in your socks. The ship creaks. Someone plays the lute against lightly less cat-like tonight. You eat another pickle, chew slowly, and wonder what on earth made someone, once upon a time, associate sourness with peace of mind. And yet, oddly, it works. You've now been at sea for several days. Time has become abstract. Morning, noon, and night blend together into a kind of briny soup. You no longer flinch at the scent of pickled beets. In fact, you may have started craving them. This is how it begins. Today, you're learning about knots. Again, specifically the kind of knot you use when you need to tie something down that really does and want to stay tied. This lesson is accompanied by a demonstration involving a live chicken. You don't ask why the chicken was on board. It seems like the sort of question that only leads to more chickens. Afterward, you sit with Willem, the cook, who is scraping a stubborn chunk of burnt porridge from the bottom of a pot. Used to be. He says, "We had a superstition about dreaming of land." You perk up. He continues, slowly. If you dreamed of land, it meant something on the ship wanted to leave. Could be a spirit. Could be a secret. You stare at him. A secret? He nods, or mold. But usually a secret. There is, of course, no record of mold-related maritime ghost stories in the official histories. But that's the thing about Sailor Larit. Floats just beneath the surface, like the leftover cabbage you accidentally dropped overboard on day 2. Later, you walk the deck alone. The stars are out, faint and flickering. One of them might be Venus, or an onion lantern in the crow's nest. It's hard to say. You pass Jan Withahair, who is muttering in his sleep. No forks on deck. No forks on deck. Noted, that night, you hear whispers. Not voices. Not really. Just the creak of the hull, the sigh of the wind, the occasional thunk of a misbehaving barrel. But they feel like whispers. You pull your blanket tighter and reach for your pickle jar. Tonight's selection is extra crunchy. You nibble slowly, staring into the dark. You wonder if perhaps the brine is more than preservation. Maybe it's memory. Maybe it's ritual. Maybe every sailor needs one thing they can control. And for you, it's this. A cold, sour, quietly comforting cucumber. Dreams come quickly. You dream of walking through a market filled with nothing but jars. Jars on shelves. Jars on carts. Jars hanging from strings like glass fruit. They glint in the sun. Inside each one, a moment perfectly preserved. You wake smiling. Somewhere a barrel burps. Someone swears in Frisian. Another normal day at sea. By now your legs have adjusted to the rhythm of the ship. You no longer stumble when the planks shift beneath you, just sway a little, like a noble tree caught in a wind. It's decided not to argue with. Your sea legs, as they say, have arrived. Late, but polite. The captain, in his usual gravelly tone, announces that you veered slightly off course. Someone suggests it was the wind. Someone else suggests it was the stars. The captain suggests everyone stop suggesting things and adjust the rudder. Today, you're assigned to pepper duty, not the spice-actual peppercorns. You're counting them. The Dutch, in the 1600s, treated pepper as seriously as gold. In fact, some merchants were known to carry tiny packets of it in their coats as emergency wealth, or to bribe a particularly stubborn customs officer. You sit near the edge of the deck, sorting peppercorns into little sacks. It's meditative. It smells nice, too. While you work, you listen to 2 of the older crew discussing dreams again. One swears he dreamed of a goat with human hands. The other says he dreamed of a bakery, but all the bread loaves had eyes. They nod solemnly. This is normal. You ask if they think the pickles are really helping. The older one leans in and says, "A dream without pickles is like a map without ink." You're not sure what that means, but he seems quite convinced. Another crewman shares a story from his grandfather's ship, where a man once refused his nightly pickle. That same night, a storm blew the sails inside out and turned the sea a strange green. After that, even the cat got a pickle. Historians, to be fair, have found no record of sailing cats with dietary preferences. But then again, cats rarely keep diaries. That night, you go to bed with your jar. One careful bite. It's sweeter than usual. You fall asleep wondering if someone swapped it, or if your taste buds have simply given up and decided to like it. In your dreams, you hear waves, but they're whispering something in rhyme. At some point during the night, the wind changes. Not violently, just enough to make the ship tilt its head like it's considering a new opinion. By morning, you're heading west, or possibly northwest. Directions are a bit like soup out here fluid, occasionally confusing and often mispronounced by Willem after he's had too much beet wine. Not quite sunny, not quite cloudy. It's just sort of ... undecided. Breakfast is the usual bread. Pickled herring, a suspiciously wobbly egg, and naturally a pickle. This one is shaped like a question mark. You take it as a sign? Work today involves scrubbing the deck. You'd think after so many days at sea it would already be clean, but no. Apparently the sea likes to leave little reminders of itself: salt, seaweed, the occasional philosophical jellyfish. You scrub, you hum. You wonder if people in history ever daydreamed about scrubbing something else for a change. Maybe a rug, maybe a conscience. Midway through your scrubbing, Jan with the hair tells you about an old belief, that if you spilled brine on the deck, it could create slippery thoughts. You raise an eyebrow. It's a metaphor, he says, or possibly a fungus. You finish scrubbing. You now smell faintly of vinegar and seaweed. You decide this is your scent now. You are officially nautical chic. After lunch, which features a stew that tastes vaguely like optimism and probably carrot stew, hear a shout from above. A sail has torn. There's a mild scramble, ropes flying, boots thudding. It's not an emergency, just an inconvenience, but it gets everyone moving, even the cat, if you squint hard enough at the shadows. While others climb and patch and shout polite sailor curses, you're sent to inventory the fruit stores. You discover something remarkable. 2 jars of preserved plums, carefully wrapped in wool. You show them to Willem, who gasps like someone's just handed him a handwritten recipe from a saint. He says with real reverence, plums bring gentle dreams. You believe him? He's the only person on board who can poach fish with a straight face. Later, the captain tells a story over dinner. In the Dutch East Indies, he once met a sailor who believed that pickles could trap nightmares, hold them suspended, harmless, like ghosts in a bottle. Everyone nods. Not because they believe it necessarily, but because after 10 days at sea, all good stories sound true. That night, you dream of a room full of doors. Each one opens to a garden. Each garden smells faintly of dill. You sleep deeply. The kind of sleep that turns minutes into hours and dreams into soft puzzles. Somewhere, the ship creaks in contentment, and your pickle jar waits by your side. By now, you've learned how to predict the moods of the sea by the way the gulls scream in the morning. Today, they're extra shrill. Either a storm is coming or someone opened the wrong jar of onions again. The sky wears a dull, damp gray, stretched thin like an old dishcloth. You stand at the edge of the deck, arms folded, watching a distant smudge of land that could just as easily be a cloud with commitment issues. Breakfast comes with an unexpected surprise. It's a new kind of pickle. Carrots. Bright orange coins floating in clove-scented brine. You bite one, unsure what to expect. It's sweet, a little spicy, and oddly emotional like it remembers a happier century. Willem beams. My cousin in Zealand makes those. Says they help with decision-making. You wonder briefly if you've ever made a decision that wasn't motivated by hunger or social pressure, that you eat another carrot, just in case. Later, you're assigned to net mending. The nets are huge. Tangled things that smell like sea dreams and regret. As you untangle a particularly stubborn knot, you overhear a conversation between 2 sailors debating whether fish can dream. One says no fish brains are too small. The other insists yes, but only about water. Neither of them cites a source. But the debate goes on for 20 minutes. It ends when someone drops a knife and everyone has to act like it was on tea because of the eel that suddenly wriggled past. You go below deck to find more thread, and on your way back up, you stumble again on the dream anchor line you tied to your toe 2 nights ago. You left it dangling. Now it's looped itself around a barrel of pickled onions. You take that as a message. Possibly a threat. During dinner pickled beet soup and dense rye, you ask if anyone else has noticed their dreams getting weirder. A few nod. One sailor says he dreamt of a talking pickle that accused him of theft. Another says she floated over the sea in a giant spoon. You, Dan, T mentioned that last night. You dreamed the ship had a face and asked you to brush its teeth. Instead, you eat a long curly pickle that tastes vaguely of rosemary and surrender. You go to bed early. The wind outside hums low, like a lullaby sung by a tired accordion. Tonight, your dream is quiet. It's just you, walking through a greenhouse of glowing cucumbers. Nothing tries to talk to you, which is always a win. It's laundry day. Or, as it's known aboard this particular ship, wet regret day. You're handed a bucket, a bar of lye soap that smells like burnt lemons, and a warning to avoid using too much fresh water. You do your best with a shirt that may or may not have been your favorite once before it turned permanently boat-colored. While scrubbing, you notice something strange. The ship's scat has taken an unusual interest in the pickle barrels. Every time you glance over, there she is, tail flicking, eyes narrowed. Ears tilted toward the brine like she's eavesdropping on something important. You mention this to Willem. He nods without looking up from his pot. Cats know things, probably dreaming through osmosis. You're not sure if he's joking. You're not sure Willem knows what joking is. After chores, there's a brief break for music. Someone has a battered tin flute. Another crew member drums quietly on a crate. The tune is slow and drifting. It doesn't really go anywhere, just loops in on itself like a nap that forgets how to wake up. You hum along, not because you know the song, but because it feels like something you've heard in a dream. As the afternoon stretches on, the sky grows lighter. Sun makes a lazy appearance, yawning across the deck and warming the ropes. You lie back for a while, letting the sway of the ship carry your thoughts like little paper boats. That's when someone tells a story about the vinegar man. Apparently, some ships kept a dedicated vinegar steward, a real role, his job, to stir the pickles once a day and say something positive while doing it. It was believed that negative words could sour the brine. So instead of storms coming, he'd say, "Nice breeze today." Instead of rats in the flower again, he'd hum a wedding song. You laugh, but no one else does. They all nod. Willem confirms it. Happy pickles, happy sleep. That night, you stir your jar. Just in case you whisper something nice, you're doing great. You're very round. You don't dream that night. You simply float. No images, no colors. Just the sensation of being gently held by salt and sky and sleep. And in the quiet, you realize, out here the difference between fact and fiction is mostly just what you can get away with. Especially if it comes in a jar. You wake up in a fog. Not metaphorically actual fog. It's a kind that swallows sound and makes the sea seem like it's holding its breath. Everything is muffled. The sails above are ghostly shadows. The creak of the ship is somehow more polite, like it's trying not to disturb anyone. Breakfast is late. The cook blames the fog. You're not sure what that means, but the porridge tastes slightly confused. You sit on the deck, wrapped in a blanket that smells like old rope and fennel, watching the mist curl around the railings. The world feels half-invented, like a dream that hasn't been properly written yet. You hear someone humming an old lullaby. Tune loops like waves, soothing, aimless, possibly about a goose. Jan with the hair takes a seat beside you and begins carving a tiny spoon out of driftwood. You don't ask why. He offers it to you halfway through. For your dreams, he says. Smaller spoons, smaller nightmares. You accept it. It feels reasonable. Midday comes and goes without the sun ever making an appearance. The crew moves about slowly, like actors in a play where the script calls for everyone to be unsure. There's talk of strange dreams again. One sailor dreamt of floating into a city made entirely of spoonge Jan beams at that. Another claims he saw the fog taking the shape of a woman who told him to eat more garlic. Torians still debate whether dreams at sea held any cultural value beyond simple distraction. But some sailors swore by them. It's not as prophecies, but as warnings. Or maps. You ask Willem if pickles really help? He shrugs. They help something. The fog lifts by late afternoon. It's just enough to reveal a gull standing on the bowsprit like it owns the place. It squawks once and flies off, clearly unimpressed. You eat a single pickled carrot. It tastes like a decision you meant to make last week. That night, the fog creeps back, but you sleep soundly, cradling your new spoon, dreaming of nothing but soft winds and jars with tiny candles inside. This morning, things go slightly sideways. Literally. The ship tilts after a barrel comes loose and rolls across the deck like it has somewhere to be. You watch 3 crew members chase it with the urgency of men who've seen what happens when brine gets free. Eventually, it's wrangled back into place. The barrel contains pickled eggs. There is a brief argument about whether they're cursed. Someone suggests flipping one to find out. No one actually does. You decide to stick with cucumbers today? There's something odd in the air, crisper than usual. Not a storm exactly, but a feeling like the sky is sharpening its pencils. The captain consults his maps, then his compass, then the sky. Then, in a particularly desperate move, he asks Willem if the pickles have been acting strange. Willem doesn't respond. He just slowly rotates one of the jars, squinting. You spend the afternoon in the hold, helping Peter reorganize the salted fish. It's a long, slow job. You talk? He tells you that his grandfather believes sailors should carry a pickle charm, a tiny silver gherkin worn around the neck. It protected against seasickness and romantic failure. You ask if it worked? Peter shrugs. He died single, but very balanced. There's laughter, real light laughter, the kind that floats. Later, up on deck, the wind finally returns. Comes in gently, like someone knocking on a dream's door. Sails billow. The ship leans forward, eager again. Dinner's a surprise. Willem's rare preserved plum pie, sweetened with molasses and sarcasm. He only makes it when the wind changes direction without being asked. You savor it. There's a slice of soft silence afterward where no one speaks. Just the hum of motion, the creak of grateful wood. You find your jar, choose a pickle, and whisper something nice to it. You remind me of home, even though I never brined anything there. You dream of a ballroom underwater. Everyone wears seaweed. You're handed a cup of vinegar and told to make a toast. You don't remember what you say, but everyone nods, even the fish. This morning, you wake to a smell you haven't encountered in days. Fresh bread. Sit up dazed, half convinced you're still dreaming. But no, Willem has somehow, through means unknown and possibly arcane, baked actual soft bread. It's golden, warm, and makes the entire ship smell like a bakery that's been gently salted. Naturally, it's served with pickled onions. The contrast is unexpectedly perfect. Sharp, sweet, soft, and a little nostalgic, like remembering something you never quite experienced. You linger over breakfast longer than usual, watching as the crew eats in relative silence, all eyes quietly shining with reverence. One sailor starts to tear up, claiming it reminds him of his wedding. Another says it reminds him of a wedding he almost attended. As the ship drifts onward, today's task is sail patching. You climb partway up the rigging to assist, which is terrifying until you realize the view makes it worth it. The sea below sparkles. The wind tugs at your coat like a curious child. While stitching canvas, someone tells you about dream sails, a superstition among sailors from the North Sea. If you patched a torn sail while humming a lullaby, it was said to carry your dreams faster at night, especially if done before sunset and with a needle that had been dipped in brine. You hum. Not because you believe it, but because it's easier than arguing with a superstition that's taller than you are. Below Vissers, the cat is curled around a jar of pickled garlic, purring like a boat motor. No one disturbs her. She's become a kind of brined oracle. After work, you sit beside Peter, who is trying to compose a sea shanty about pickles. So far, all he has is, "Oh, briny friend, my vinegared kin, your sour kiss makes sleep begin." You suggest rhyming dill with still. He nods, scribbles, and mutters something about needing a muse with more mustard. That night, you choose a long, speckled pickle from your jar. It's oddly shaped like a question asked too late. You eat it slowly. You sleep easily. And in your dreams, you're sailing on a ship made entirely of glass, with sails stitched from soft whispers and a crew of thoughtful clouds. The wind has turned friendly, not helpful necessarily, but warm. and carrying the scent of distant pine. You hear someone say, "You're nearing the coast of Norway." One says you've passed it already. A third sailor insists you're going in circles, but no one listens to her because she's been known to talk to ropes. Either way, there's a quiet excitement aboard. Land always stirs up something: hope, restlessness, or in some cases, the urgent need to find more jars. Spend the morning sorting supplies. You find another batch of carrots, single jar of pickled walnuts, and what appears to be a note tucked inside a vinegar bottle. It reads, "If you're reading this, you've taken the wrong jar." You decide not to ask. Over lunch, the crew plays a game of pickle or no pickle, where someone describes a dream and the others guess whether they had their nightly brine. One sailor says he dreamed of a staircase that led to the moon, but halfway up, he realized he'd forgotten his shoes and his mother-in-law. Consensus, no pickle. Another says she dreamed she was a jar, just a jar, with a label that read, "Do not open unless bored." Everyone agrees, definitely pickled. You realize with a quiet smile how seamlessly the habit has folded into life, like tea in winter, or socks in bed. Later, the captain tells a story about a ship that ran out of pickles mid-journey. Not long after, everyone began to dream the same dream. A floating market where jars sang songs in different languages. The same dream, you ask? He nods. Every sailor, every night. Until they made more pickles. Made more, he shrugs. Fermented seaweed, it wasn't good, but it worked. Historians naturally have not verified this tale. But then again, most historians weren't aboard. That evening, a soft mist rolls in, curling over the deck like a lazy cat. The sky turns the color of chamomile. You sit by the bow, nibble a sweet pickle, and rest your chin on your knees. The ship creaks gently, and you dream not of markets or jars or seaweed, but of sitting at a kitchen table you've never seen before, where someone hums as they place a plate of warm bread and a single perfect pickle in front of you. You feel safe, and when you wake, you remember the taste. Just barely. Yeah. You wake to the sound of bells. Not ship bells, not warning bells, soft, far-off chimes. Like someone winded them up 100 years ago and forgot to stop them. You open your eyes slowly. The deck is bathed in a creamy gold light. Morning sun on the sea has a way of feeling freshly baked. You stretch and notice something unusual. Silence. Not complete silence, of course. The sails still flap lazily, the water murmurs against the hull, and Willem is gently berating a barrel that leaked again. But the usual morning grumbling is absent. The crew is gathered at the port side, quietly staring at something just beyond the waves. You join them. It's land, jagged green-brown cliffs in the distance. A few trees stubbornly clinging to the edge like they're afraid of falling. Mist wraps around the coastline like a shawl, softening every outline. The sight makes you feel something in your chest, a bit like homesickness, even though you're not sure for where. "We'll anchor by sunset," the captain says. "Best not to rush the land when it's still dreaming," you nod. That sounds like something out of a poem or possibly a breakfast cereal slogan. The day is light. People sharpen tools, check ropes, reorganize crates that will never stay organized. There's laughter relaxed, not hysteric land. A game involving guessing what's in mystery jars. One turns out to be pickled plums, another a single beet in a small comb. No one wins, but the fun is in the attempt. You overhear a sailor say, "I'm not sure I want to sleep on land again." "What if I can't dream properly?" someone else murmurs. "What if the land has worse dreams than we do?" That evening, you eat a modest meal, pickled eggs, dried fish, and a single square of honeyed biscuit from a secret stash. Dessert, naturally, is a sliver of sweet cucumber pickle with cloves. You eat slowly, holding it on your tongue as the anchor thuds into place. The ship settles like a sigh. Climb into your hammock, rocked gently by the last waves of open water. And you dream of a door set in a mountainside, labeled only Library of Forgotten Foods. You knock. It opens. Inside, the air smells like vinegar and vanilla. Land smells different. You'd forgotten. It's greener, heavier, almost mossy. Even the breeze feels slower here, like it has to work harder to move around all the still things. You step off the ship just after dawn. Your boots make a soft sound in the wet grass. Dew clings to everything like it's afraid of being left out. Crew fans out quietly. There's no rush, no shouting. Just the gentle clatter of supply crates being moved, lists being half-checked, and a few private sighs of relief. The village nearby is barely awake. A few windows glow faintly. Chickens make sleepy sounds. Dog yawns at you and goes back to not caring. You find yourself following Willem to the edge of the market. He's cradling a small jar like it's a newborn. Inside are pickled apples. He's hoping to trade them for spices. Land pickles, he mutters, shaking his head. You just don't have the same. Struggle. You nod solemnly. You don't quite know what he means, but you feel it. At a sleepy stall, covered in linen, a woman sells jars filled with curious things. Rose hips in vinegar, lemons with thyme, something labeled sailor's sleep. For good dreams and boring nights. Willem buys 3. You ask what's in it. She smiles. Fennel, lavender, and a little lye. You wander on, sipping hot barley tea with a hint of brine. It tastes like regret made cozy. Back on the ship that evening, the crew gathers for a last night on board before more unloading tomorrow. The mood is soft, a little sentimental. Peter reads aloud from his almost finished sea shanty. O briny sleep, thou art my guide. Across the sea so slow and wide, with every jar my fears take flight, and dreams arrive by pickled light. Quiet cheer follows. Even visitors, the cat offers a dignified meow. You take one last pickle from your jar, it's perfect. It's maybe not in shape or color or crunch, but in the moment. You eat it while watching the stars emerge one by one, like polite guests arriving fashionably late. Tonight, you dream of a staircase made of glass jars. Each one glows faintly, and as you step, they play notes like distant lullabies. You wake in the dark, and for a moment you don't know if you're on the ship, on land, or somewhere between. The hammock sways gently. Someone nearby is snoring a slow, confident snore. You smile in the dark. It's Willem, obviously. You sit up, stretch, and pull on a wool cloak. It still smells faintly of salt and cloves. Tonight is your final night aboard. Tomorrow, you'll step onto land for good, though no one says that out loud. The ship has become too familiar. Its creaks and sighs are now part of your inner map. Like a lullaby that plays from the inside out, you step quietly onto the deck. The stars are out, bold and scattered like breadcrumbs for sleepwalkers. Below, the water is glassy and still. Somewhere in the distance, a heron calls. Or maybe it's just the wood groaning in its sleep. You make your way to the front of the ship, where a little bench sits half hidden behind coiled ropes. You've never noticed it before. That feels symbolic. You sit. The bench is warm from the day's sun. You rest your hands in your lap. They smell like dill and worn paper. Below you, tucked in a coil of rope, is an open jar. Not yours. Not labeled. Inside, small green things floating gently in clear brine. A mystery batch. You smile. You don't eat one. You just sit with it. It's enough. The wind is soft now, like it's walking barefoot. The ship hardly moves. Somewhere below, someone laughs in their sleep. Someone else mutters a name. You look up at the sky. There's a constellation shaped like a spoon, another shaped like a barrel. Maybe you're just seeing things. That's fine. That's the idea. You wonder, not for the first time, how a jar of pickles became the sailor's favorite charm against bad dreams. Some historians say it was just the vinegar's calming effect on digestion. Others claim it was symbolic order, preserved in chaos. A fragile world made shelf-stable, but most likely it was just tradition. One passed down by tired hands to other tired hands. One bite at a time, a soft superstition, like knocking on wood or not naming a cat at sea. And honestly, isn't that enough? You yawn. Your breath fogs a little in the air. The stars blink slowly, like eyelids. The sea seems to hum, and somewhere in the dark, the last dream of the voyage begins its slow unfolding, wrapped in brine, softened by time, and carried gently on the back of the wind. Let it all go now. The crates have been stacked. The jars are sealed. The crew is quiet, each tucked into their own corner of sleep. You've walked the deck 100 times by now. You know its language the way the boards murmur under your boots, the faint wheeze of a sail relaxing, the soft clink of something glass. Somewhere, rocking with the tide, you can feel your body still rocking, even as the sea grows quiet. That's how you know you've made the voyage part of yourself, not with maps or medals, but with rhythm. Out there, the world keeps turning, empires rising, tea spilling, boots squeaking across dock planks. But here, now, there's nothing you need to do. You don't have to think about pickles or sailors or briny legends. You don't even need to remember where land begins and water ends. You can just let the story dissolve like a sugar cube in warm tea. One last breath. Let it be long, slow. Feel your shoulders fall, just a little. Your jaw soften. Your eyes grow heavier. You've wandered far tonight, across water and time, in the company of sleepless men and sleepy cats. Jars of strange dreams and memories sealed in vinegar. Let it drift now. Let it all drift. There is no ending. Only stillness. Only sleep. Good night, sailor.